What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Captain's Run. Rugby League, Rugby League, Rugby League. It's the best. There is so much going on. We've got Origin tonight. It could be a decider. It might not be a decider. Who knows? Only time will tell. What a match is shaping up to be tonight over in Perth. Queensland versus New South Wales. It is here. And geez, I tell you what, as a Queensland, I'm not going to lie. I'm feeling very nervous. Got a huge show planned today. Obviously, we've got all the Origin chat game day. We've got plenty to talk about. Billy Slater, he fires back at Aaron Woods' grub comments in the pre-game press conference in Perth this morning. He then went on to apologise. Just breaking news this morning. He went on to apologise to connect the situation to Paul Green, which we obviously will get the audio up of later. NRL news from the week. South having their bid to play home games at Allianz Stadium rejected. Very interesting. Then South putting up an article basically saying that I think the SCG's trust was asking them to break their contract. Then the SCG's trust came out and said, oh, no, we were just talking about their uncontracted games. The Rabbitohs then replied saying, no, that is not true. I mean, this is rugby league, baby. This is rugby league. Manly and the Dragons under pressure after dizzying performance. Manly, not just under pressure, and I can't listen. This is how you know the Maestro's bias. Under pressure, the coach is nearly out the bloody door, mate. Under pressure. Really great, Maestro. How you going, mate?
Not too bad, mate. I've hidden that down the bottom of the notes today, so we'll get to that later in the show. There's lots of other maroon talk to talk about. We don't have to talk about the Seagulls at all if you don't want it.
Of course. Give us a text, 0457 736 736. In the first segment, we will be talking about the Billy Slater situation. I'd love to get your thoughts about the situation. Obviously, respectfully, guys, you can have your opinion without going too far. I'd love to hear your opinion, though. 0457 736 736. So welcome to SEN 1170 in Sydney, SENQ 693 in Brisbane, and SEN 620 on the Gold Coast, listening live on the SEN app, or you can download the SEN app at the App Store or the Google Play Store, or you can listen belatedly, tuning in on the podcast, Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. That's out of the way. Alrighty, big news. Okay, so a few weeks ago, Aaron Woods, essentially, he called Billy Slater a grub. He essentially did. He went into some, incidences when he played, but basically called him a grub. Then about 7 days had gone by. Billy Slater was then asked by Bedell, what are your thoughts on being called a grub by Aaron Woods? And Billy Slater responded. We've actually got the response here.
When you hold a position in the media in our game, I feel that's a privilege. And with that privilege comes a responsibility. And you amplify your voice to millions of people. You're not talking to your mates in the pub. Now, I know Aaron Woods. I actually ran into him about 3 or 4 weeks ago at a footy game. And he didn't voice that opinion then. When you degrade someone personally in a derogatory manner, you probably don't deserve one of those privileged positions that we're all in. I'm not done yet. You don't know what people are going through. And although I might be able to handle it, the next person mightn't be. Maybe our last coach didn't. I believe the character of a person is judged more on what they say about people and how they treat people than what an individual says to create attention about someone.
There you have it. Now, it'd be a bit pointless of us having our opinion on that without obviously playing Billy Slater's apology for that last part of that sentence. Here it is.
Yesterday, I wrongly made the link between Paul Green's death and the stress and pressures of coaching, which wasn't accurate, nor was it appropriate. I feel terrible about what I said, and I spoke to Amanda Green this morning and apologised for any hurt that it may have caused her and her family. I just want to say this. Paul had CTE. That's a different disease to what I was referring to. Once again, I'm deeply and genuinely sorry.
Yeah, I got to say, I do really appreciate that Billy Slater came out and apologised like that, because you can you can sit there and put your Queensland bias on and want to immediately try to defend your guy and he's from your state. But I think if anyone's being fair dinkum, they would all agree, like, bringing up Paul Green in that situation probably wasn't the right call from Billy Slater. And so I really do respect for him coming out what sounded like a heartfelt apology and sounded like a very sincere apology, because I do think bringing up the Paul Green it just wasn't necessary. It wasn't necessary. So with that out of the way, in regards to the situation at hand, funnily enough, I already had some stuff planned with Aaron Woods to shoot for the NRL the day that he said those comments. And the first thing I said to Woods, I was like, mate, what are you doing calling Slater a grub? And he was like, oh, mate, I'm just trying to fire up the boys. Like, what's going on here? You know, Origin's been so dull. And I said, yeah, but calling him a grub, like, surely. And look, you know, I wasn't, you know, obviously I disagreed with him calling him a grub, but I was not like I was, you know, staunching Woodsy. But at the same time, I let him know how I felt. Woodsy was just like, mate, I'm trying to fire things up here. I'm trying to get something going. I will say, whenever something like this happens, I try to put myself in the position of the person it happens to go, okay, like, how can I empathise as much as I possibly can to that person? And I think what's getting a little bit lost in the noise, because I think when you watch Billy Slater and he had that press conference, my first reaction was I was a bit surprised at how personal Billy had seemed to have taken it. Like, being a professional athlete, being Billy Slater, you know, he'd been called anything under the sun. He'd been in the spotlight forever, so it's not new to him. But then I was like, well, I think the reason why it was so personal to Billy Slater is because what he said. He said, oh, mate, I met Aaron, not met him, but I caught up with Aaron Woods a few weeks ago. And I was with my son, you know, by my understanding is they got a photo together or something like that. And so you can understand, like, I just say, okay, let's say I ran into Woodsy and we shook hands. Hey, mate, how you going? Yeah, all good, mate. You know, can I get a photo? If that was it, I don't know if that happened, but just let's say it was cordial. Hey, mate, here's my son. My son's name's Rain. Nice to meet you. Yeah, nice to meet you, mate. Then we just go our separate ways, and I've introduced you to my son, and we're all cordial and mates. And then a few weeks later, you call me a grub. I would be like, bro, what the hell is going on there? And so that's where I think you're getting, some people may be a bit surprised at how personally Billy Slater had kind of taken it. But like that's why I think Billy has taken it personally, because of that interaction. Now, let's say that interaction doesn't happen and he just randomly across the board does it. I think it's probably taken less personally from Billy. One thing I have, you know, and whether this is good or bad, one thing I've learned being on the internet the way I have is, as soon as you show the internet you're hurt, it's over, even if you're in the right. Because the internet, it's just a big pool with sharks in it. And when you show you're hurt, that's blood in the water, baby. And so you've always just kind of put up this kind of strong front. So there's that. Now, does that mean that Woodsy shouldn't be able to say, you're a grub or whatever? I don't think so. I think that if we start policing things on the worst thing that can happen, then, you know, we're never going to have any, like, if you can't say, like, for example, and it wasn't Billy Slater that called Spencer Leniu a grub, but like the Courier Mail called Spencer Leniu a grub, you know, the week before. And funnily enough, I was the one saying, as a Queenslander, I was saying, I don't like that because the journo hasn't earned the right to say something like that. So I can not like something whilst also saying you should be able to say that, like, if you're talking about rugby league, even though it's uncouth, it's inappropriate, all those things. Even though I said to Woodsy's face, mate, why'd you say that? To suggest that you shouldn't be able to say something like that in a lead up to a game, I think you'd be really robbing the circus that is Origin if you were to make this kind of idea of, oh, there's certain things you can't say and you can say. Now, granted, I'm not sitting here saying there is no line. There absolutely is a line. There absolutely is a line that you shouldn't cross. And so I can say, Woodsy, you could have said so many other things other than grub, and I don't agree with the fact that you called him a grub. However, his right to say it, I think, should still exist, just like Billy Slater should have a right to reply. And so, as always in a lot of these situations, the truth is somewhere in the middle. You can understand why Billy Slater took that personally, because you just met my son, you met my family, like we shook hands a few weeks ago. Now you're calling me a grub. But you can also understand Aaron Woods' situation where he's like, I'm just trying to fire things up. I don't think anyone that knows Woodsy really thinks that he intentionally meant malice by saying that. The problem is, though, and this is something that I think maybe the wider audience isn't probably aware of, when stuff like this happens, it's not actually the player, it's the issue. It's the fact that someone in the playground would go up to Billy Slater's kid and say, oh, Woodsy called your dad a grub. Or someone would go to the wife and say, oh, your husband's a grub. Or when Billy's out with his kids, someone yells it out or whatever. It's all of that stuff. And so on one hand, I absolutely can understand where Billy's coming from in perspective to the initial thing that he said, not the last bit of, bringing that stuff in. You don't know what people are going. I get all that. I really do. But at the same time, I do think that, if you're going to say, okay, you've always got to worry about what people are going through or whatever, then there's a lot of stuff we just couldn't say in rugby league. Like, would we get to the point where we say, oh, we're not allowed to say someone's fighter? So I can understand absolutely the mental health side of things that Billy was kind of coming from in regards to. But at the same time, I do think that, getting called a grub, yes, it sucks. Yes, your family having to deal with it for sure. But I just think that last comment was probably a little bit too far. And Billy Slater admits that. Maisha, I'd love to get your thoughts, mate.
I'm disappointed for Billy that last comment did come in because I thought he made a lot of very strong points before that, as you just said. One thing is it's a gut check for us in the media about, the impact our words are having. We get one of these every now and then. The second is this is the second time that Billy has really bitten at something coming out of the New South Wales camp at this same press conference. You remember it was down in Melbourne last year where the glass houses comment came from Madge, which really got under his skin. And I don't know if that's down to the pressure he's feeling as the Queensland coach.
The first one, the glass house ones, I don't think that should get under your skin. I can understand the grub one.
Yeah.
Because, again, they were hanging out a week ago. That's the area that I think is not probably getting spoken about enough. It's like, mate, you were speaking to me nicely like I was a normal bloke, and then a week later, you're calling me a grub on the radio. Yeah. Like, what? Like, it's funny. So the same people that are like, say what you mean and say it with your chest. And, for example, we go back a few weeks ago with the whole Spencer Leniu thing, how he was like, nah, I'm not speaking to Nine. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And so the same people that were on Spencer's side there are now saying that Billy shouldn't be pissed off because Aaron Woods called him a grub, even though in his face he was being all nice. You know what I'm saying?
And that's the personal face of it, right? A headline's a headline. It's written by someone behind a keyboard. It's easy for a player to brush off. This one, I think you're making that point very eloquently, that, this coming from a person who is respected in the game and who Billy clearly has some respect for or did.
Yeah.
Making that comment has amplified it just that little bit more. And, your thing about people should be having the right to say these things. Like, we've been crying out for some build-up to Origin, and it has taken us till 24 hours before the game to get something to really fire this series up. I'm worried as a New South Wales fan now. I think the Queensland side, looking at this, looking at the pressure that's on their coach, who they all love, they're going to come to Perth tonight with a real bit between their teeth.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that. Just back to I think the perfect way this could have been handled, and I don't know whether they had his number. I would have assumed maybe just give him a call, a call, and you just say, mate, I'm going to just, I'm going to say a few things here to fire things up, because that's where it was coming from. At least when I spoke to Woodsy and was like, mate, what are you calling Billy Slater? He's the legend of the game. Blah, blah. He was like, mate, I'm trying to fire things up. I think if he calls him or at least contacts him somehow and says, I'm going to say these things, mate, just to get a bit of things going, I think that's probably the best way to handle it. I think that, and there are a lot of people going, oh, come on, mate, like it didn't, it's not that big of a deal. I do get that argument. But if you're forgetting the impact of it around you, the kids would find out about it, the mum and the family around him and whatever. However, I do think that even though there is a negative impact, I do think that we do have to understand the intent. Like, does anyone really think Woodsy means it maliciously? I think we're all pretty aware he's trying to get things fired up. Like, I really do. Now, that doesn't take away the personal feeling from Slater, the fact that he did catch up with him a few weeks ago, that it was all good, there was no negativity there. And so the funny thing is you really can kind of understand both sides. Yep. You can understand the side of Woodsy going, mate, I'm just trying to fire things up. But you can understand Billy's side of going, mate, we were shaking hands with each other, a month ago, and now I'm getting called a grub, and that's the headline, and probably people around me getting told me about. So it's a strange situation. I think that it probably would have been perfect if just the last bit wasn't said with Billy, because you can understand what Billy's saying. You don't know what people are going through, and sometimes blah blah blah, all that good stuff. Because we all do agree with that. And then you could also understand Woodsy. Listen, man, I'm trying to fire things up. I don't think it maliciously. And then we just move on from there. I think the big thing that kind of took it into an area where it just didn't need to go was just that last kind of comment. In regards to firing up, like, I know a lot of people have said that, but I think that it's gone so far past that I don't think Queensland are going to use that side of things.
Okay.
I think they'll use the grub. Him getting called a grub, that's definitely going to be motivation. I don't think in the Queensland camp they're going to be, the Paul Green stuff. Like, that's such sensitive stuff.
Yeah.
That's so much past rugby league. That's not going to be used at all. Like that. We're talking about a game of. At the end of the day, this is a game of footy.
Yeah.
That is. They're not going to use that, something way more sensitive, something so much more important than rugby league, to get motivated. But they will use. All right, mate. You want to call our legend a grub?
Yeah.
All right, let's see what happens there. And so, yeah, I think most reasonable people. I think most reasonable people will say pretty much that. Like, you can understand where Billy's coming from. Woodsy didn't mean anything by it. He was trying to fire stuff up. Probably should have gone into the area that it did go to. We got some text here, guys. We got some text here. Sorry, 2 seconds. Oh, okay, you know what? My son's name is Rain. Rain, lol, beak. Whose name's their kid? Rain, you grub. There's the internet for you. There's the internet for you. Afternoon, beak. I think Billy took it personally, also due to the fact that Woodsy referenced different times when Billy got suspended for things that happened to the field. For sure, yeah. Like, you can understand why Billy would take it personally. There's absolutely no denying why it is. As I said, the one thing that whenever I speak to people that are trying to get into social media or media or whatever, the internet is a wild place. You just got to pretend it, even if it does sting you. Just pretend. Just it's all good. He can say whatever he wants. Slater, yeah, okay, all right. Woodsy can't say whatever he wants. Like, that would be, crazy. Got a text here. He probably should have called. It's just going. So we're getting so many texts here. He probably should have called Billy Slater before mentioning that. And then it would have been all good. I'm sorry, I've just missed that. But anyway, we've got 1,000 texts to get to, guys. So what we'll do is we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to get through these texts. Okay, here we go. He should have called Slater prior to making the grub comment and say, I'm just going to stir things up. It's all fun and games. All right, we'll head to break. We'll get back and we'll get to your text. Well, welcome back to the Captain's Run. The text lines have been absolutely lighting up. I will say, if you're still sitting here saying, I can't believe you'd bring in, the whole situation with Paul Green, this, like, even Billy Slater, he's already acknowledged that was the wrong thing to do. So even Billy agrees with you that was the wrong thing. He's apologized. I'm a big believer. If you apologise and take accountability, I think that we should, give people grace in that situation. Hey, Kempy, what happened to the old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me? Second point, Billy Slater is pretty intelligent man. If he couldn't tell the difference between Origin banter and a personal dig at him, as a person, I feel he's feeling the pressure of his role and got the better of him yesterday. Yeah, look, I'm with you. Like, as I said at the start, like, any advice I'd be giving to people is, like, the best way to handle any stuff like that is don't bite. Because as soon as you bite, there is a whole bunch of people just ready. There's no empathy or sympathy on the internet. Like, it's none of that. Like, they are ready to rip you to shreds. They're waiting for that moment. So I'm with you. As I said, I think that what made it personal for Billy was the fact that they would literally just caught up with each other. Like, I think that, probably, like, that's probably why it feels quite personal for Billy. Does it mean that I agree with the response? No, it doesn't. Like let's say that happened with me. I would actually be calling Woodsy after it going, mate, what's the go here? Like, is there an issue? And if Woodsy was like, mate, just a bit of banter, like, blah, 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 that'd be sweet. If Woodsy, let's say Woodsy fully went to water, is like, I'm so sorry. That's when I would probably be like, all right, well, I'm going to let everyone know that when I called him, he went to water. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that the best way to probably have handled it was to just, like, call Woodsy, say, mate, is this legit or what? And then just be like, mate, these are the reasons why, blah, blah, blah. But in my opinion, how I would have handled it, I wouldn't have bitten. If you're on the internet and you've been here long enough, mate, you just got to not bite. You just got to not let it get to you. Okay, I think Billy has been a bit of a contradiction lately. The talk of years, this is a Queensland team, and this is a team of role models for Queensland, etc. Then he picks Ezra in the squad. Then he talks about responsibility and privilege in the media from Woodsy. Then in the next sentence, he makes that comment. Very contradictory, and I'm a Queensland man. I've lost respect for Billy. Okay, I don't know about losing respect for Billy, but I do think you do make some really good points. And if you've listened to the Captain's Run, you'll know that I didn't agree with selection of Ezra Mam. I think that it was the wrong call. Okay, I weep for the future I weep for future of Origin when the build-up consists of irrelevant past players spouting off sound bites that are no better than internet troll comments. Let the players on the field do the talking because they're the guys that people are tuning into and buying tickets to see. That's Andrew from Wynnum West. I will say, I wish in a perfect world that was the case, mate. Like, I really do wish that it was like, you know what, let the footy do the talking. Unfortunately, in the current day and age of entertainment, it just doesn't work, bro. Like, because we're not competing with just other sports where we just go, you know what, our product is so good. Like, rugby league's product is unbelievable. You got big hits, you got mental toughness, you got guys pushing through pain, you've got the silky stuff, you've got it all. The problem is you're not just competing with other sports, you're competing with other programs that are entertainment. Like, I mean, there's a reason why MMA has grown as quickly as it has, because it is just all the drama outside the ring that makes you buy into the story. And so although I don't ever want anyone being fake, I do think that we should cultivate an environment where if there is a player that wants to say something, protect them. Give them the environment. Say, yep, you know what? You can say something. We're not going to hold it back. We're not going to... Because the problem is at the moment, the NRL are very much like, maybe don't cross the line here. We've got sponsors, your role models, you're this and that. I do think that like letting the players kind of say their feelings would probably be the best. Like, for example, Spencer Lanu being on a media ban. I would have loved for Spencer to be able to speak before the game and be like, and geeing it all up. And that's why I've just got so much respect for a guy like Luai, because literally within a day of being in camp, he was already saying stuff like, I've got the dog in me, I'm not backing down to no one. And that's what we want. That's what we really, really want. Hi, Beak. Watching the various footy shows, the journalists always say that they are there to promote the game and banter is something to write about. Genuine question, why does the media think it's their job to promote the game? Well, the media has a stake in it, mate. So, for example, if you're 9, you have a vested interest in the most people possible watching the game. And then also, if you're Triple M, if you're Fox, even if you're Bloke, we have a vested interest in the game going well, but also we have a vested interest in all the yarn around it. Like, for example, when the Lockie Galvin stuff happens, like I don't enjoy the fact that it happens, but there is no denying that the numbers go up. When this stuff happens, the numbers go up. Now, this is something that you just wouldn't even like. This is beyond the pale of what you would want to happen. So I'm not saying you want it, but it's a natural part of being a human. When there's drama around the game, it gets bigger. It just does. Now, you obviously want to try and straddle that fine line between too far and not far. I got another text here. Yeah, apologising is great, Kempy, but the damage is done. He had a crack at Woodsy for responsibility and privilege in the media, and straight away his high horse stance is contradicted. I mean, the damage is done. How much damage is done, bro? Like, do you think Woodsy's... Like, what damage is done? Like, I don't know. Are you... who's damaged? I don't think so. I think the only person that we really care about in this situation is Paul Green's family, who Billy Slater has called and apologised. And Paul Green's family is really the one that matters in this situation. Not us, not Woodsy, not Billy. It's Paul Green's family. And if they have accepted his apology, I think that we all should as well. Can't be pretty easy. Even though I can't stand Queensland, Woodsy made it personal. Give yourself an uppercut, mate. Billy took it personally and emotionally and stepped over the line. Everyone has apologised, even though Billy was thrown into it for no good reason, but clicks and attention. Time to move on. So give myself an uppercut? Okay, so Woodsy made it personal. Give yourself an uppercut. All right. I don't understand why I would give myself an uppercut. Anyway, long story short, just to put a bow in it, guys, in my personal opinion, I think the best course of action for Billy would have been just to, water off a duck's back, pretend it didn't hit, pretend it didn't land. And in regards to Woodsy, like I will say with Woodsy, the one thing you have to, just always be aware of is that you've got producers and everything that kind of like, oh, say this or say that, and they push you to say these big things, and it's the media networks that kind of, they benefit from these huge headlines, and it's your personal relationships that get affected. Not that to be honest, I think one phone call from Woodsy to Billy, I think it'd be over. I really do, because I know that Woodsy didn't mean it like that, and I think most people know Woodsy didn't mean it like that. So at the end of the day, I tell you what, it's got everyone talking. I'm glad. I'm really happy that Billy Slater apologised. I think that was a really responsible thing to do, a really respectable thing to do. And yeah, I think that Woodsy, he actually spoke about it on his show, and he was quite. I actually understand where Woodsy's coming from as well. Alrighty, we are going to head to a break. After a break, we've got plenty more to talk about. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Now, we actually got another text saying, I was saying Woodsy to uppercut himself. Okay, apologies, mate. I thought you said me. I was like, what the hell? Now, we got another text. This is interesting. Kempy, stop effing talking about it. I'm sick of hearing about it. Crackers from Redcliffe. Brother, it literally just happened. Okay, let's get into it, shall we? In regards to some selections, obviously Luai has been brought in for Moses. Preston has been brought in for Keon. I've got to say, Maestro, do you think that Queensland will make many changes before kickoff?
Well, Billy's been strong the whole week that it's not going to happen. So that could be mind games, it could be anything. But he seems pretty set that this is the team that he's going to send out there to try and win this game. I don't know if he's trying to keep guys out of that initial contact. No, is the short answer. I don't think there's any changes coming.
I don't think so either. And matter of fact, like, if there was changes, you're almost, like, I'd understand sometimes where there's like one or two. And it happens when there's not that much conversation around selections. But like, if there is big changes, you're almost admitting to a degree that you need to play these mind games at the moment. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, 100%.
It's different if you're going into a game one and like Lindsay Collins starts instead of Cotter or something.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't that much conversation around, should he or not been selected. But like, for example, it's like, if let's say Leora gets brought off and Carrigan gets put on, it's weird. You're almost confirming everyone's suspicions of like, even though maybe Billy wouldn't think that, you're confirming. So I actually don't think there's going to be many changes. And that's where I will say, although I'm Queensland till the death, literally till I die, baby, it's in me blood, there are some selections here that I just struggle to understand. For example, and I've actually got the wrong teams here. So Valentine Holmes is actually at 4, Hammers on the wing.
Right, you are.
That's the big one. Like, the Mo Fodawaker starting, I can't understand. Yep. I think that he'd be much better as impact off the bench, or I'd be bringing Horsburgh and Arrow. Leoro starting, I was like, you know what? I can get it to a degree. Like Carrigan, if there is one knock on Carrigan is he can work himself a bit too hard, and in the back end of the game, he gets a bit sloppy. And also, sometimes I think with Carrigan, and Tino can fall foul to this as well, because they are so desperate to do everything for their side, their runs might be 7.5 out of 10, instead of saying, you know what? I'm going to do less for my team, but every run's going to be a 9 out of 10. And I think like sometimes they fall guilty, or they become guilty of that because their side needs it. Like the Broncos desperately need Carrigan to do that. Yep. I mean, the Gold Coast Titans, like, my God, they need him to do that. And so I can understand the idea of Billy going, you know what, Leoro, on paper, probably not as good a player as Carrigan, but you know what he can do? He can get on, he can tackle his ass off, and you can say to him, mate, I need you to just go absolutely ham for 20 minutes in defence. Even in attack, like just in defence. We've got Tino that can run the ball heaps. We've got Mo Fodawaker, hopefully he runs the ball heaps this time. And then you bring Carrigan on and you say, instead of a 7 out of 10 each run, give me an 8.5 or 9 out of 10 each run. But the one thing for the life of me I just cannot understand is Val Holmes moving from wing to centre. Because what you're basically doing is you're swapping each player into the weakest part of their game. And what I mean by that is like, right now, the weakest part of Val's game is his defence.
Yes.
The best part of his game is his tough carries. Like, they are so unbelievable, his tough carries. Like, Val coming out of his own end is dynamite. Hammer, on the other hand, outside of last game, has been incredible in defence in Origin. What's the one thing Hammer doesn't do? Is all of the dirty stuff, because you don't want him to do that. Hammer's a Ferrari. Yep. Hammer is get him the ball to score tries. He's not a guy that you want off the back fence, banging his body up 20 runs a game. I just can't understand. Like, maybe they'll swap when they're on the field, but I just can't understand that. Like, I just don't know who is sitting there going, okay, if we move Val to centre, he's going to do a better job on Critter.
I completely agree with everything you've said there. Not too much to add. The question I'll ask you then to move this forward, Din coming in at 7 must have been handed the captaincy. All of it's irrelevant unless they are able to compete up front. So I'll give you that. But, is this going to be the thing that sparks money to life? Because he hasn't been a standout for a year and a half in Origin now.
Yeah. Look, if there's one man that can do it, it's Munster.
Yes.
Out of all the players on the field right now, he's the best Origin player.
Yep.
He's got the best Origin resume.
Record. Yep.
the worry I have is this. There's so many players right now that are not in the best form of their career in the Queensland side. Okay, right now, of course, you would pick Tino. But the fact of the matter is, our starting front row is the Gold Coast Titans front row, which is the worst in the competition. The worst team in the competition right now. And so that's what I'm just not getting, Billy Slater, where you've got a guy like Corey Horsburgh, who's a front rower in the best team in the competition, because the Raiders have the most win of any team in the competition.
Yep.
So you've got this opportunity to select a guy that's in the toughest forward pack in the comp, that day in, day out, sharpens his sword against Tarpanair, one of the best forwards in the competition, bar none, against Papali'i, against Hudson Young, but you don't pick the Horsburgh, even though he's probably got the sharpest sword out of everyone. And I obviously I know what that metaphor could mean, but I'm just saying, sharpest sword. It's a sharp sword. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I know what you're saying.
Do you pick Warriors? Do you pick Warriors from a regiment of men that are absolute dogs every week, or the regiment of men that unfortunately are the worst regiment of men in the whole competition?
Yeah. The only thing I can think looking at this team list is Billy Slater going to play this game almost backwards with his forward pack? And what I mean by that is starting the guys that you're looking usually to come off the bench to give you, just that consistency through the middle period of the game, and instead going to the guys that would usually start right. I'm going to keep you out of that initial 20 minutes, but after that, I need you to come on and have a massive impact. I reckon we're going to be able to hold New South Wales out for that initial period on a wet surface over there tonight.
Are they?
Yeah. Well, and that's the question. That's the gamble that Billy is taking. But the proof was in the pudding in game one. They weren't up to it.
Yeah, and that's just, I just wonder, it's all well and good to say, okay, when Hannay and Carrigan come on, that's when we'll go to another gear. But it's like, what if the game's already done?
Yeah.
That's a concerning thing.
I guess the caveat to that is, through the middle period of the last game was probably where Queensland played their best footy. They got the try. They managed to keep themselves in it when it looked like the Blues could run away with things.
Yeah.
It is a gamble. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. It's a massive gamble if that's the road that Billy's going down. That's the only reason I can see for him making this or juggling the pack the way he has.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It really is. You've got our depth is so little that we're recalling Capewell and Cotter is playing on an edge. Cotter's not an edge player. Don't get me wrong, he did a bloody good job game one. But, you're basically putting out there saying, okay, we're not going to worry about attack on the edges. We're just going to make you defend your backside off because we're worried about their attack. And I just worry, is that a bit reactionary? Do you start Hannay and lean all the way into the fact, you might miss a tackle or two, but I tell you what, he might score a couple of tries too.
Yeah.
I'd love to have sat down with Billy Slater. Obviously, that's above my pay grade, but I'd love to have sat down with him and go through every selection, not even for public facing, just privately, and just get his explanation for some of these selections, because I'm just struggling with all the rugby league I watch, and I know Billy would watch more. But with all the rugby league I watch, there's just a few things that are making me scratch my head to a degree, and I get there is a reality of the situation. New South Wales depth is just unbelievable. And, maybe it is just New South Wales time, but I still believe that there are certain selections that aren't necessarily making sense at the moment.
Yep.
Let us know in the comments section, guys. Not in the comments section, sorry. Text us in 0457 736 736. Do you agree with the changes for the Maroons? Do you not agree? Some of them you agree, some of them you don't. Let us know. Would have you selected some other people? I would love to hear your thoughts. 0457 736 736. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. We've got 1,000 texts to get through, so we'll get through them. Seriously, Beak, making positional changes to this Queensland team is like rearranging the chairs on the Titanic, from Mike. Oh, come on, mate. How many times we've been here where Queensland have been under the pump, no one believes them, and they get the job done. Hey, boys, one big issue for Queensland was how quiet Latrell was for game one. I think he has a point to prove, and big dog the game tonight. Blues 2-0. It is scary. He was outside. He had some big moments early on defensively, but outside of that, he had that great tip on for the try. But he's a little bit quiet, so that's very, very concerning if he has a big game. Maroons need to spread it early. When in possession, there's no way they can compete with the Blues pack. And that's from BMO. I was so surprised game one where early on they were doing it. And they had so much joy against Latrell and Ty, where I was like, okay, here it is. This is the game plan that will win them. And I think that's really part of the reason why DCE got dropped, is that there really didn't look like there was a conductor out there directing Queensland around where they needed to go. And so even if you want to say, oh, I'll get another chance or whatever, it's one thing to direct a team, but it just is a bad night for you. And it's a whole other, kettle of fish if you didn't even direct the team. And I think that was my biggest concern with DC game 1 was like he had less kicks than Munster. He just wasn't engaged in the game. And unfortunately, it's gone on and shown that in Manly as well. Like he's not engaged with that game too. So who knows? Like I thought that he could handle the whole Manly situation. I actually thought they'd be able to push through it, but it does seem like there's clearly a lot going on there that we don't know about. I mean, the coach is under pressure now, which we're going to talk about later. Actually, you know what? Top of the next hour, we'll be talking. I know Maestro tried to sneak it past. He tried to pretend like it's not a big deal that Manly may lose their head coach, get a new coach, and their star is also going to be playing centre. I mean, it's a club in absolute shambles. We're all talking about Billy Slater and Aaron Woods. The real headline is what's happening at Manly. Absolute shambles. We're going to go to a break. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run, and we're wrapping up the first hour. We spoke about Billy Slater. We spoke about Aaron Woods. We spoke about Queensland and the changes. We spoke about plenty, so make sure to tune in. Hour 2, we're speaking about the real story. And I'm just so glad because it's deflected from the Broncos and the dramas that's going on up there. Manly in crisis. Manly in crisis. Don't look at the Broncos anymore. No more headlines needed about that. We got to win over the Titans, which means our season is totally back on track. There's nothing to worry about. After the break, we're going to be talking about Manly Seagulls. And all jokes aside, it is looking dire there. It is looking like there might be movement in the head coaching role. Maestro, speak to me.
Look, Kepi, we'll get into it deeper out of 1 o'clock, but let's just say Tony Mestrov coming out and saying Anthony Seibold is safe at the moment, for the moment, right now, gave me no confidence.
Mestrov's essentially saying, he didn't actually say this, but he's essentially saying Seibold is safe this microsecond.
That's right.
This microsecond, as I speak, he is still safe. Just this microsecond. We're going to see. We'll see you after the break. We've got all things Manly, and then we'll talk about the Dragons. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Give us a text 0457 736 736. I tell you what, let us know. Is Seibold under pressure? Should he be under pressure? What's the direction Manly need to head in? Who should be the next coach? Tom Trbojevic, should he be moved to centre? We've got it all here, and I tell you what, Maestro, he tried to hide it. He tried to bury it in the last bit of the show, hoping we wouldn't speak about it. But I tell you what, for the people, I do this for the people, Maestro. Currently, Manly in absolute Kevin Nangamas.
You're not kidding. You're not kidding. Have you ever had a 7-minute meeting with your coach with a dossier of what he needs you to improve on? This report is...
Mate, I've got to say, and I want to be clear first. At the start of this year, I was saying, guys, it started maybe last year or this year, one of the years. I was saying, guys, give Seibold a fair chance. We don't know what happened. The Broncos resume doesn't look good, and it didn't work out, and he has to take accountability for that. But we don't know all the circumstances for it, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. He's got a really good record, and as an assistant coach, he knows his stuff. Give him a fair crack. I'll give Seibold a fair crack. But what I can't understand, he is this far into his coaching career, and he's still giving dossiers out to players and sitting them down for 7 minutes. Surely, I understand everyone has different coaching styles, but surely that's not the best way to communicate with young men that you're trying to turn a club around, turn their performances around, handing them, big pages worth of all the things they need to work on. I mean, the thing that I'm not understanding is, rugby league it's a pretty simple game. And I don't think Manly are struggling for skill set. I don't think they're struggling for talent. I don't think they're struggling for footy IQ. They're struggling to get up for each other.
Yeah,
that's what it is. And so a dossier with all these points, that's not going to help it. They're struggling for connection and unification and playing for each other and playing for one another. And that's where I just think that's probably been Seibold's biggest Achilles heel, is he's been so theory-orientated, so by the numbers. And I get it, he's a super smart guy and he's got all these degrees or whatever. But, unfortunately, that's not what rugby league's about. It just isn't. It's not. And who am I to say that? He's got a much more decorated coaching career. But in my opinion, you don't win rugby league matches with theory. You do it by wanting it more than the next bloke. Once you get to the NRL, especially with the squad he's got, it's not about talent and X's and O's. It's about turning up for the bloke beside you. What do you reckon, Maestro?
Well, I completely agree with you on all those points. And this is most disappointing as a Manly fan because there were glimpses of something really building there last year. They were so good to watch, Kempy.
Yep.
Like it was win or lose. You knew that Manly were going to put in a performance that you were going to enjoy watching. It was going to be attacking footy. It was going to be side to side, and that was all out of the Seibold theory book. But I completely agree that there seems to have been some ruptures behind the scenes that have meant that they are bringing that sort of attitude out onto the field. DCE's form has gone off a cliff. Tom Trbojevic is clearly not fit, and so this move being talked about into the centres now. I don't really know what that's going to change because, as you say, it's all starting up front at the moment. And Taniela Paseka going down at the time that he did was probably the worst thing that could have happened for Seibs and Manly. But that is not an excuse for losing to the Gold Coast Titans after the loss the week before as well. Like, it's just been a horror stretch. And now looking as though they're an outside chance for finals rather than being the top 14 that plenty were predicting in pre-season.
Is it untenable now, though? Like, with all this stuff getting leaked, and there was other stuff getting leaked saying, when his contract ends, he wants to be a general manager rather than an actual coach. And so it's like, who's leaking that? Because there's no way Seibold's side is leaking that. Because if Seibold is openly telling people he wants to be a GM and not a coach, mate, you'd be walking out tomorrow. You'd be done. And so it seems like the powers that be at Manly are angling to move Seibold on.
Yes, I couldn't agree more on that point. And there is it was interesting. Dave Riccio wrote an article earlier in the week about all the NRL coaches in waiting there are at the moment. Like, there is a long list. It's not a couple of years ago where it was Serraldo and Riles. Like, they were the two being tossed up. There are a lot of names out there ready to take on jobs at the moment.
What about, I think that's one area, though, where I feel like as a game, we just play, okay, this coach didn't work here.
Yeah.
I mean, Manly have already suffered from that. They went and got the guy that struggled at Brisbane, and he's now struggling at Manly. Mate, I think you start fresh. Like, look what happened with Webster. Look how good the Eels are going under Riles. Look at Serraldo. Mate, I reckon you get Hannay.
Yeah, I'd love that shout. A guy that's been in that Maroon system for a little while now, has had previous coaching experience.
I don't understand this merry-go-round that we just like, okay, because, look, I get it. It's such a specialised expertise that the actual list of people that could potentially be coaches is very small. I get all that. But if you actually look at the clubs that have gone, you know what, let's just go all the way through for a rebuild. Let's go new. Let's get someone else in. They're all actually doing bloody well. Like, Warriors are killing it. The Bulldogs are killing it. And I'm telling you, the Eels are so far ahead of their schedule. I reckon if you spoke to most Eels fans, they would say they're stoked with what Rilesy's done so far. I mean, look at the Sharkies, Fitzgibbon.
Yep.
He got started again. Boom. He's all good. Like the Cowboys, okay, they're not going so great now, but I tell you what, they're going a lot. For the last few years, they've been in finals.
Yep.
And so I just don't understand this need or desire to go, okay, if you haven't coached NRL before, we're not going to pick you. Mate, I reckon Hannay should come in. If they're going to do that, go down Hannay, get him the opportunity to build with a new young roster. Is there anyone else that you would be thinking?
Matt King's the other name that comes up to my mind. Connected with that Bears job, but looks like that's going to go elsewhere now. I think it's Benny Gardner that they're speaking to over at Perth at the moment to take on the assistant role for Mal. But yeah, Matty King, Josh Hannay, I'd be delighted with either of them. Even Matty Ballon coming back into the club. I think the Boys are pretty keen for him to get a crack there. I wouldn't mind seeing him have a shot at that either.
He was a defensive coach of the Broncos in 2023 when they won. They made the grand final.
Yep.
Do you think it's untenable now? Like, how does Seibold go back in there and coach these boys when this just like the fact that this 7-minute dossier stuff got leaked? You know how specific that is?
Yeah.
Like, that's someone deep in the club.
Yeah.
And if you're and that's where I feel a little bit sorry for Anthony Seibold, because I'm like, mate, just and this comes back to, if you want to get rid of me, just say it to my face.
Yeah.
This whole going behind and like leaking all this stuff, it's just like, this is why the club is at where it's at, is because everyone has agendas and they're not willing to have the hard conversation to each other's faces.
And I will say that as well, is that I think this problem goes beyond Anthony Seibold. Tony Mesterov's last 12 months haven't been the most impressive in the DCE scenario. I wasn't a fan of the quotes that he gave for this report either.
You know what, though, the problem is for Manly fans, is that although on-field has been a disaster, off-field has been incredible. And a lot of CEOs go, we're selling out every game, look at our profit books, blah, blah, blah.
Overall, I'm still a fan of what Mestrov's done since he's come to the club. The recruitment they've done has generally been
But this is why you need
clever.
a general manager.
Yeah, 100%.
This is, I'm a big believer in CEOs that unless you are, there's two different kinds of CEOs. There's a genuine CEO that comes from business and, they don't really understand rugby league like that. If you're that kind of CEO, you essentially need a person that has as much power as you, but just in the football department.
Yeah.
Because the problem is Mestrov is clearly to my understanding, when you look at all the financial stuff, he's clearly done a really good job with Manly. But I'd be very confident in saying that Manly fans would say, you know what? Take me back to when we only used to get 8,000 people out to the grounds because we used to win comps.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes the suits, when they come in, they get so focused in on the money side of things, they forget, hey, the biggest deal is not your profit and loss sheet, it's how many prems you're winning. Because you can build much more off that. And so I think that's probably an area that Manly need to work on.
100%. And, they're going to have the opportunity to do that now. I can't see Seibs being the head coach at the start of 2026. I think
I'd be very surprised.
I'd be very, very surprised with how this is all.
With the details being leaked.
Yeah.
Like, that is so specific.
The fact that, I know this was before it was named that Lachlan Croker and Jason Saba going into New South Wales. Like, it is extensive. And Chammy's one of the best, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. But still,
he's got his claws right into this story.
The fact that they were and it's not Chammy's fault. He's doing his job.
Exactly right.
It's the people in the club that are willing to go, yep, I'm just going to leak all this stuff to make Seibold. Like, we even knew that there are clubs that, players that apparently didn't like the dossiers and the 7-minute chats. Like, the 7-minute chat, that's so specific, bro.
100%.
Like, it wasn't he had a couple meetings with players or whatever, or individual. It was 7-minute meetings. And again, that's always been my biggest knock of Seibold. He's so by the book, 7-minute meet. Why is it 7 minutes? Why isn't it 6 minutes? Why isn't it 8 minutes? Like, surely there are certain players that you need 2-minute meetings with, and there are certain players you might need a 15-minute. Like, what the hell? I remember hearing some stories out of Brisbane, like some of the training methods were like genuinely like they'd be in the middle of something, and if the clock ticked over, they would like stop in the middle and go to the next drill. Like, it was so specific, and it's like, even Craig Bellamy has had to ease up his style of coaching with this new generation. Look at Wayne Bennett.
Yep.
Like, all these guys, like, don't get me wrong, Bellamy still has his hard edge, but there's a time and a place for it, I think.
And it's about that thing with having the principles there, but then executing that inside a system where the players are driving that rather than times and, statistics, all that sort of stuff. Being a little bit loose, like being stuck to your principles, but being a little bit loose in the way that you do things, varying things for the playing group. Like, I think that all comes into it. The one thing I will say, like, Manly don't want this to go the way it did with Des Hasler. Like, the last coaching move on.
Are they still in court?
I think they've finally settled that one. But the way they moved on from Desi, they don't want a repeat of that saga swallowing up the club. There's enough going on without all that.
Yep. Now, do you think there needs to be a complete rebuild or just a couple of key... what I can't understand with Manly is, like, it's been staring you in your face for at least 3 or 4 years now, is your forward pack needs a bit of a punch up
100%.
through the middle. Everyone knows it. Every fan knows it. Like, fans are far more switched on today than they used to be. Because they consume so much content. They know so much more about the game. And what I cannot for the life of me understand is you have not done a single heavy recruitment drive in your forward pack.
And part of that's been down to the lack of money they've had, right?
But so surely balance, like, okay, so, that's where you go, okay, so Tommy Turbo, he's apparently already open negotiations, as in the club has.
Yes.
He's taken a massive pay cut. Jake Trbojevic is going to take a massive pay cut. DC is not going to be there anymore. Surely there's at least $800K in the cap to get someone.
Yeah, but are you going to do that this season now? Like, yeah.
Well,
I agree with
fine,
you.
yeah.
I agree with you completely in theory, but it's the practical outcome now is,
like, for example,
when are you doing that?
When it found out that DCE was gone, and that was last year.
Yeah.
You immediately know that you have $1 million, probably $1.2 million in your cap to go out and get someone. So you've got Fogarty for around the 700K mark. DCE is gone. Tommy Turbo's not earning as much as he was. Jake Travoy, you know what I mean? Like, surely there's some money. And you know what? If there isn't any money, then you have handled your salary cap terribly.
I think that's been part of the problem, to be honest. Like, we have had a lot of money locked up in 3 guys. So when you do that, it means that the rest of the squad is not as complete, and perhaps that's been part of the suffering as well.
I will say this, in this new salary cap, to have one big dog forward on 900k, 800k, because that's Jake Trbojevic on 900k at the moment, isn't he?
I think it was just short of that, but yeah, you're around the mark.
So we'll say 900.
Yep.
To have your fullback on $1 million, there's
even a
1.1
bit above.
Okay, 1.1. That's pretty standard.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I'm not understanding. The only thing that I think may have happened is you've gone too hard to keep too many outside backs.
Yeah.
And I think that you probably had to make a tough call on one of those outside backs that you didn't, and that's cost you your middles. Because like right now, yes, is it awesome that you have Cooler, Saab when he's playing his best footy, Garrick, Lehigh,
yep.
and all those boys? It is good. But would you say it's a surplus to
yes.
requirements?
Of course you would. When you look at Clayton Falolo coming through, you look at Tommy Talau, you got and you got Sabi in there as well, who's gone back to New South Wales Cup. You're right, it is a surplus.
And so you go, okay, are those guys coming through as good as our current starting players? No, they're not. But can they do a job? They can do a job. And I just think and that's why the whole Lehigh thing was always bizarre to me, because see, people are like, yeah, Lehigh, he would have re-signed to just play on the wing and play under Tommy. There's no way Lehigh's playing. He signed, I guarantee you, he signed on fullback money, not wing money. And so that's why they need to start planning on they need to make a hard call on what's going on in that back line.
I'll tell you what, the one advantage that they do have is they're very, very fortunate to have the two Trbojevic brothers coming off contract, willing to sign for a pay cut, because there's not too many other players around the competition that'd be willing to do that.
And I think with Tommy, I'd be saying to Tommy, listen, we need to sign you on centre money.
Yep.
If you play a whole season, mate, we will put you back to fullback. And also Lehigh, he's getting paid well, so he won't mind. He's willing to go. I just think that at the moment and I think Tommy he'd probably agree to this too. I don't think he even expects to be signed on fullback money.
No.
I think if you said to him, mate, it needs to be centre money, because we need to take that money and get you a front row partner with Paseka when he's full strength, then all of a sudden things change a little bit, because I think that I really do appreciate Manly's ability to keep all these outside backs, but I think they should have made a hard call at some point over the last couple of years and used that money for the middle.
I think that's fair comment. The one thing as a Manly fan, I'm almost writing off this season. I can't see them turning it around, but they're only a move or two away from being right back as a competitive football
100%.
team again, with some of the young guys that they've got developing in that system at the moment.
That's why I don't understand the dossiers and that, because if you just get the boys, you know what, throw all that out, get them all the beers together. I know it sounds silly, but that's what you are one beer session away from your season being back on track. Here's a really good example in regards to recruitment. So obviously the Broncos have Selwyn come off contract.
Yes.
We've got a guy, Karapani, that's coming through the grades. Is Karapani as good as Selwyn? No, he's not. Does he have the same potential? I don't think so. He's a bloody good young player. There's no denying that. But why would we sign Selwyn as a Broncos fan? Why would we sign Selwyn on $750K when Karapani, we can sign him on $300K? And I think the same thing should happen with Manly, where, yes, of course I want Selwyn to stay. Of course I want him to be a Bronco long term. Of course. But if it is at the sacrifice of our salary cap, I don't think that it should be a good idea. I think that we've got other guys, young outside backs, that can do a job. And that's where I think Manly probably need to start to look at and build in the middle there. Got a text here before we go to a break. Hey, Beak, I'm a Manly man for 50 years. I was not on board with Seibold when he arrived. They interviewed Hannay at the time. They need to go after him now. Seibold is devoid of answers right now, and you can see it in the press conference. Eagle Dazar. Yeah, I'd be with you too. I'm with you, mate. And this actually happened about 6 to 8 weeks ago. I was watching it, and the lack of passion. Like, the one thing when Seibold was at the Broncos that really frustrated me as a Broncos fan is I never heard him talk about what the Broncos jersey means. It was all these technicalities of like, oh, well, this happened and this call and we dropped the ball here. And when I watch him watch him in the Manly press conference, I never see any like, what does it mean to be a Manly Sea Eagle? Like that great generation that came before us with Snake and, your Orfords and all those boys. Like, what did they were down and dirty.
Yep.
They hated everyone and they didn't care. This current Manly side, they're not the same. They don't have to be the same, but they've got to have some DNA. So we'll see. All righty, we're going to head to a break. After the break, more negative stuff to talk about, apologies, but it's going to be the Dragons. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. I tell you what, just quickly, if you are a part of the Bloke Club, we currently have an awesome deal with Menulog. We're sending an email out today. If you spend $30, you get $10 off. It's an Origin special. So if you want to get a feed to your house tonight, join the Bloke Club. And if you spend $30, you get $10 off your order. It's a latest exclusive Bloke Club offer with menu log, guys. It's for Origin tonight. It'll last only a couple of days. So join the Bloke Club, www.bloke.club. It's totally free to join. Honestly, you can leave after use if you want. I honestly don't mind. And also, if you do join the Bloke Club, we're giving away a Mazda BT50 later this month. Plus, also this month, we are also giving away a 7-day stay in Surfers Paradise thanks to Coastal Letting Co. Company. If you're staying in Surfers Paradise, contact them. They're the best. But we're giving away a 7-day stay for free. And it's literally... all you got to do is join the Bloke Club, and we give these things away for free every single month. It is seriously, no strings attached, so easy to join, and you get the chance to win prizes every single month. Alrighty, welcome to the Captain's Run. We're here for Chemist Warehouse. Get discounted prescriptions and save more money at Chemist Warehouse. Dragons thumping raises questions over Flanagan's future. Kyle Flanagan's future, that would be, I'd say. Speaking to the Daily Telegraph on Monday, Shane Flanagan responded to criticism of his son. This is what Flanagan said. To say Kyle is under pressure is ridiculous. I think people are looking in the wrong direction. He's been among our best players all year. It's not me. Ask the other players and coaches. I'm probably harder on Kyle than any other player. In the last couple of weeks against the Dolphins and in the second half against Cronulla, we've been steamrolled in the middle. We know where our problems are, and we're going to address them. As for Kyle, we're comfortable with what he's been doing. Yes, from a performance perspective, he can play better. Without a doubt, he can do better offensively. But week in, week out, he competes hard and defends well. Oh, man. Listen, I from a pure let the world burn content pig that I am, I love Shane Flanagan, the fact that he actually gives us an insight into what he's thinking. I love the fact that he's always willing to speak to the media. It's really important that coaches do that because, geez, the game would be boring. However, I will say if I put on not my content pig hat that I have on all the time, and I take that off and I put on what's best for a rugby league team, oh, man. I think that he probably could have worded this a little bit better because I tell you what, if I'm a front rower that just made 40 tackles and worked my absolute backside off and I saw my head coach basically saying, hey, the number 7 is not our problem, it's our forwards, I would be pretty annoyed. I'd be pretty annoyed. Maestro, I'd love to get your thoughts.
Look, the evidence is building that I think the Dragons have got other options in that spot. You know, dropping Lycan King Tongia now would be a very, very controversial move, given that they've called him into the squad, dropped Lockie Ilias, and then Ilias has gone to reserve grade, and from all reports, just been killing things. Yeah,
6 from 6.
Haven't lost a game since he's been dropped down there. Yep. He's got Jonah Glover down there as well. Apparently he's doing good things.
Yeah.
There are other options. I will caveat that by saying I do not envy Shane Flanagan whatsoever. I know he made the decision to bring Kyle to the club, but as many other people have said, you know, unless you are coaching Nathan Cleary and your name is Ivan, this rarely ends well. Rarely ends well.
Yeah, I don't understand why he threw his forwards under the bus.
Yeah.
Because, oh, man, he could have said, listen, Kyle, we're all happy with him.
And he did this with Ilias earlier in the year as well, right?
Exactly. And this is where the conflict of interest comes into play, where even if it wasn't intentional, even if, you would have said it anyway, the problem is that it can be construed as protecting. Like the fact that after 2 games into Ilias arriving at the club, he was already being publicly criticised, and then he got dropped. So in a month where I think they went 3 from 4, 3 wins, 1 loss, Ilias got dropped. It's not a good look. And so this is the tough thing about having your son in the roster is that unless they are Nathan Cleary, because winning solves everything. Yep. If you're winning, it's not. And if I'm being totally honest, I actually think Kyle Flanagan's been pretty solid. The problem is that we always say, a lot of people say, and I'm not fully in this boat, but I am to a degree where if you're not winning, you do have to look towards the 7 a lot of the time. And that's why they get paid.
They're your quarterback.
They're your quarterback a lot of the time. Now, I don't think that Flanagan should be dropped right now, but I do think if they lose their next 2 games, unfortunately, he just has to be. When you've got a guy in reserve grade that's gone 6 from 6 and has got all these try assists, doing all this good stuff, and you were willing to drop him after 1 loss, then if you don't drop a 7, and as I said, I actually think Flanagan has had periods of the year where he's played well. He's also had other periods where he's played poorly. He hasn't set the world alight, but I just don't think calling out your forward pack is the right way to go about this. I
No.
just don't think it is.
Completely agree with you on that point. Is there a happy medium here where Flanagan's still in the side but wearing 14 on his back?
The funny thing is this. Let's say you take out you desperately wanting your kid to play 7, if that's the case or whatever. Let's say you do drop Flano and Ilias comes in and you still lose. Then you win. You win the argument. If he goes back and you win the argument as well.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying. So he actually, I know if you take out the fact that he wants his son to play in the first grade side, and he actually has an option here that is a win-win for him. Because if he drops him and they go on and lose, then you can say, clearly Kyle wasn't the problem. If he drops him and Ilias comes in and they win, of course, that's what you should want. And so that's where I think he's probably going to have to go in the next... There's a lot of people that say he won't drop Kyle. I disagree. I think that Kyle would even go to Shane. If they lose the next 2 games, I think that... and look, I don't know what their relationship's like, but I would assume even Kyle would be like, listen, we need to be smart here because if you don't drop me and we keep losing, we're both out of here.
Yeah.
And so I do think there actually is a world where he could drop him. I don't mind your shout of 14. I guess the problem is there then Little and Cook, that rotation gets a bit changed up.
Yep.
However, we have seen players and benches willing to do that. We've obviously seen the Bulldogs. Cook actually at 13 has been playing okay when he gets put there, and Little has been incredible. So I just think that he's going to, if they do lose their next 2 games, it's going to have to come. It has to. Unless Kyle Flanagan comes out and he has like 3 try assists and he kills it or whatever, but that's just not the player he is. And the worry I have for the Dragons is like they've done so well in some of their young guns coming into the side. Some of these young forwards that have come in have been absolutely phenomenal for the Dragons, and it's so exciting. The concern I have is does Shane Flanagan believe that Kyle Flanagan and Atkinson can take them to the next level? Because I'm just not sure that can. I do think that there is a ceiling with Flanagan, and I just wonder, is Atkinson good enough to allow Flanagan to be that super conservative 7 that just gets him around the park? If he is, if Atkinson can play to the best of his ability, then maybe that is true. But I'm not sure. Now, we've got a text here. As a Dragon supporter, Lachlan had a better record in 7 than Kyle, and Lachlan, as you stated, has won 6 in a row. In my opinion, Kyle's a 14 at best. What do you think? Yeah, I don't mind it. I really don't mind Kyle being at 14. I would say I don't think he deserves to get dropped just yet because it's not like he's had Barry Crockers. Kyle Flanagan hasn't been terrible, in my opinion.
He wasn't the reason they copped 50.
No, I don't think so. Even if you put Ilias in there, I don't think that he would have changed that much. So I do think he deserves at least a couple of more games. And I do. The funny thing is like I do agree with Flanagan to a degree about their middles. They have also been poor, but again, it's the singling out of the middles and saying our problem is in the middle, not my son. The optics of that is just not good. Whereas if you just had come out and said, listen, I don't feel the problem is our son. I feel he's been all right. We've got a few things we need to work on. We're going to go back and we're going to work on it. You could have got the same message across without,
saying it publicly.
Publicly. I think that's the biggest concern in regards to the PR nightmare. Here's another one. Maybe the fact that 2 hookers made the most tackles in the forward pack tells you Flano might be correct. They played 56% and 51% of the game time. That's an indictment of the middle forwards. 56% and 51%. Look, I don't know. I don't think anyone would say that their forward pack killed it. I don't think anyone's saying that. It's the PR.
Yeah.
Okay, put it this way. What other coach have you seen this year say our 7's not the problem, our forwards are?
Yeah. I can't think of one. Maybe Fitzy earlier in the year, but that's it. Yeah. I don't even think he said it publicly.
I don't even think he said that.
No.
I don't even think he said that.
I think you're right.
And so it's the PR side of it. And when you actually go and look at some of these forwards, they weren't terrible. So you've got Clemmer, 117 metres on the weekend, 46 post contact, 29 tackles, 0 misses. Toby Couchman, he had 121 metres, 39 tackles, only 2 misses. Leilua, 35 tackles, only 1 miss. DeBellin, who's actually been, I think he's been quite good this last month, 135 metres, 5 tackle breaks, 41 tackles, only 2 misses. So it's not like the forward pack was just diabolical. So yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. Kempy, I reckon what you're saying about the Flanos is similar to Gordy. It'll be either Shane or Kyle who will lose their job. I don't know if it's that cut, and I don't think it's that black and white. I do think Kyle's been pretty good. I do think that he could be a really good 14 for him. He's played 9. So I think there is a world where they can make it work. But I just think that if they do keep losing, he's going to have to make that hard call, unfortunately. All righty, we're going to head to a break. After the break, plenty more to talk about, including Origin chat, previewing the games on the weekend. There's so much more to talk about. We will see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. We got some breaking news. Breaking news. Josh Hannay, he has been quoted, the assistant coach of Queensland. This is his quote. "We're going to kick off right, by the way, tonight, so the Blues can put whoever they want on that side of the field." Genius, genius, genius. Because it continues to push the narrative of, no, we kicked right because it was Val Holmes, he's on the left and we were getting stripped of numbers. Oh, I love that. So, listen, I guess Spencer Lenny, could you imagine if he goes to that side and then they kick to his side? They go, we're trying to kick to you. We forgot that you were on that side.
Do you have any doubt that Spencer's going to do that?
Absolutely, he's going to that side. Wow, this is the hype stuff I want. This is what I want. This is what G's me up for Origin when an assistant coach comes out and says, okay, we're kicking the right side. You want to be there, ready to go, ready to rumble. Go to that right side. Get yourself ready. And a lot of people don't actually know. Spencer Lenny at Suncorp Stadium before he got on the field, there's actually footage of him giving it to the Queensland crowd, doing these ones, getting in their face. Mate, I tell you what, Spencer Lenny has the opportunity to be one of the great villains to Queensland in Origin. And again, that kind of stuff, that makes Origin. This is the folklore stuff. This is Queensland didn't kick to an enforcer that just tore us apart last year. The assistant coach comes out and says, all right, mate, just so you know, we're kicking right, so if you've got the guts to go over there. And then Spencer says, do I have the guts? I'm ready and raring to go. I mean, obviously, Hannay didn't say, have you got the guts? But it's implied. It's implied. Listen, if you really want this bad enough, we're kicking right. Go over there. This is great stuff. This gets the people going. Oh, yeah. Can you feel the tension? I know I can. I can feel it all the way down in my plums. Right. Ready for the picking. Down to the farmer's market. Oh, that's good stuff, baby. That's great stuff. I love that from Hannay, and I love what Spencer Lenny has brought into the Origin arena. I just think it's exactly what we need. We need this firiness. We need a guy that's willing to go all the way, that's going to get into Queensland's faces, is going to give it to us. So hopefully we can bounce back. All right, we're going to head to a break. After the break, we've got plenty more to talk about. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Huge news overnight. We are here for Chemist Warehouse. Get discounted prescriptions and save more money at Chemist Warehouse. South Sydney's bid to move to home games to Allianz Stadium rejected by New South Wales government. Rothfield reported yesterday South Sydney's attempt to quit Sydney Olympic Park to move to Allianz Stadium has been quashed by the state government. And we've actually got some audio from Solly this morning with Matt White.
The deal was signed in 2016. So when the government stadium strategy, same experience that the best stadiums can offer, whether it be in Sydney or around the world.
There you have it. Listen, look, I tend to believe what the Rabbitohs are saying because I've read a lot of it, and the opposition of this, or opposition per se, they haven't really been as forthcoming with detailed answers. It's all from what I've seen, and apologies if there's more to it, but it's all very much like one sentence. Like, we spoke to this person and here's their statement, and it's literally one sentence answer that, could imply that, that there were certain other things going on or whatever. Mate, I understand where the Rabbitohs are coming from. And I've got to, maybe because I didn't grow up watching rugby league, maybe that's my shortcoming. But I cannot believe that this is even a question that we should be moving them to Allianz Stadium. It adds to the game in every single way. And I don't get, what does it take other than ego hit to the Roosters to have that stadium? Right now, the only thing the Roosters get out of that stadium that, by the Rabbitohs not being there, is just ego that it's their stadium, that you don't get to be here. Now, obviously, there's the argument of, there'll be too many games on the field. Really? You really reckon we couldn't invest enough money to make it so that one extra game that is happening? So over a season, let's say, I think they want 7 games there. So you're telling me 7 extra games a year is going to destroy the pitch to a point where it's not you can't play good footy on it?
Yeah.
I think that's a bit of an excuse.
If that's an argument for a stadium that we paid nearly $1 billion for as a, tax-paying city, state, then that is a real concern.
And what I'm not understanding is just like, literally no one likes going to a core stadium.
You
No one.
are not a big fan of a core stadium.
It sucks. Like I will honestly, I'll never forget going to the Broncos grand final, and you're already heartbroken walking out of it. The amount of time it took to get out of that joint, it sucks going out there. Like you know what I can't believe for the life of me? You can go to Suncorp, sold out,
Yeah.
and you can get a cab like click of the fingers, boom. A core is so poorly set up that you'll be getting squeezed into trains and you're still waiting 40 minutes to get even to that point. Like it is so poorly set up. And why are we worried? Like even if you were the most staunchest Roosters fan, let's say you're the staunchest ever Roosters fan, surely you sit back and go, okay, more people are going to enjoy rugby league if the Rabbitohs are here as well. Like it benefits more people if the Rabbitohs are here. It benefits the game of rugby league more. I'm just not getting the only argument you could possibly, let's say you take out the whole field thing. The only argument you could possibly have to not have the Rabbitohs at Allianz Stadium is just, no, it's mine. Like give me, I honestly, I am open. Text in 0457 736. Aside from the field being a little bit more banged up, why does it logically make sense that the Rabbitohs can't be at Allianz Stadium? Please let me know. What do you reckon, Maestro?
Well, we're going to hear more from the state government this afternoon. The Sports Minister, Steve Kemper, is joining Joel and Fletch for a little bit more on this after 4 o'clock. But their argument, I'm pretty sure, is going to be we need those 2 core tenants at a core stadium, as Blake's already laid out there, because that gives us a better argument for investment in the future. Plus, we're spreading out more football across the 2 major stadiums that we have in Sydney.
So what you're basically saying is Rabbitohs have to cop a contract essentially being breached by the government, because when they signed, the agreement was that money would be invested. So you're saying Rabbitohs have to go, oh, yeah, no worries. You don't live up to your end of the contract. We'll cop that for the benefit of the game. It just doesn't make any sense.
I'm in agreement with you on that. I disagree with the New South Wales government on this decision, Kempy. I think it's better for the game. It's better for South Sydney. I think their fans are closer to Allianz Stadium. It would make more sense. I think the 3-4 games that they do still have some licence over, I'd be keen for them to take to Allianz Stadium if venues New South Wales will let them do it, and from all reports they will. But then you're getting into West Tigers territory about, how many home stadiums are you playing out of over the course of a season?
Okay, so we got a text here. I don't get the New South Wales government obsession with stadium builds. If Allianz is a result, why bother? Australians spend $2 billion on kids' sport each year. If the government cut the cost of participation, the net gains for community participation and health outcomes would destroy event returns. I'm not really sure. Like, I guess. I think that's like kind of a different argument.
Going to a different sector to what we're talking about at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm not educated enough to know where the government should be spending their money. I just know that the government agreed to spend some money with the Rabbitohs, and they didn't. So the Rabbitohs have every right to go, well, we're going to go somewhere else then, in my opinion. We've got plenty of texts here, guys, so we're going to get to them after the break. Okay. All right, this is a good one.
Yep.
You really don't have any idea about the Roosters' ego and sense of entitlement, do you? They wouldn't care if the Rabbitohs were playing in a dumpster. In a dump, they still wouldn't care. I think there are some reasonable Rabbitohs fans. I really do. Okay, but we got plenty of texts in, guys, so we're going to go to a break, and then we're going to get back to your text. 0457 736 736. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Got some texts here, guys. The government can't say you can have money. No, hold on. No, you can't, but you have to stay just in case the business model states 2 tenants for future investment. If they even, oh man, the text just went up again. If they ever, sorry guys, I can't find that one. Anyway, we'll go to a break. We'll come back. The text flying through, and it's just gone. So we'll go to a break. After the break, we'll get to the text properly. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Make sure to give SEN League a follow on Instagram, on TikTok, all that good stuff, on Facebook. And also, do not forget to join the Bloke Club, because we are giving out a Mazda BT50. And that is all thanks to Luke Camilleri. Give him a follow on Instagram, LDC_01. He's the best in the car business. And also, if you are looking for a car right now, if you mention Bloke to him, he will take care of you. He will absolutely take care of you. Absolute legend. That's all thanks to Aspley Mazda. Join the Bloke Club at www.bloke.club for your chance to win a Mazda BT50. Or we are also giving out, thanks to Coastal Letting Co., a 7-day stay at Surfers Paradise valued at $2,200. Okay, some text here. You were reading my text before, Kempy. The government can't say you can have money. No, hold on. No, you can't. But you have to stay just in case the business model states 2 tenants for future investment. If they even do a refurb, they will more than likely close down the stadium and games can't be played there and the two tenants will have to move anyway. That's a great point. Okay, got some more just here. The government, i.e. Clover Moore, wouldn't let us build at Redfern because of the impact in the area. So we moved to SFS, then we were broke a core/ANZ stadium. We're going to pay $250,000 per game. Why wouldn't you take it if you're broke? We are now doing well. Let us move back to the stadium owned by the people. Yeah, I mean, it's a fair one. South signed a 15-year deal on 2015, which the government will hold them to unlock NRL contracts, which break like a twig. Are Bulldogs in the same boat? Not really sure. Kempy, with the unsuccessful vote to sell Rose Hill for housing, wouldn't Homebush be perfect for that? With the sale of Homebush, local grounds could be upgraded. It's an interesting one because the problem is that Homebush, when we do have big events, it is perfect for that because we actually, in Sydney, it's pretty much the only big stadium in New South Wales.
Second biggest is Allianz at 50,000. So you're losing 30,000 from that.
The second biggest is Allianz.
Exactly right.
Yes,
so you'd be losing 30,000 for those big events.
So it's one of those tough ones where we need to have it. Well, I say we because I live here, but New South Wales need to have it as a state in case, for example, the Matildas play or whatever. So, but it's just it's a matter of it's just a fairness of a government thing. If you promise that money, you got to deliver it. And look, I'm not going to get into where money should go from a government perspective or whatever. The fact of the matter is the money was promised, so it should be given. And the fact that the Rabbitohs have been this forgiving so far is almost the government should be thankful. Anyway, let's get into some previews, guys. Some big games this week. But let's preview the game tonight first. We'll get into the game tonight. Look, this really is a New South Wales game to lose. And that's not me saying it facetiously and, the whole underdog thing. Look, the fact of the matter is this New South Wales side on paper, they're all in substantially better form than essentially any Queensland player. Matter of fact, there's an argument to be made. There's not a single Queensland player in career best form at all. I'm trying to think. Munster's not. Kalen Ponga's not. Harry Grant's not. Tino's, there or thereabouts, but I wouldn't say he's career best. He just come back from ACL. Paddy Carrigan, because he's been moved to the front row to 13, he's not. Cotter's not. And so that's the fact of the matter.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is this New South Wales, they are red hot. Hudson Young, career best form. You could argue Payne Haas, definitely career best form. Reece Robson, I think he's been quite good. Lomax, career best form these last 2 years. To'o, when is he not in bloody career best form? Crichton, definitely career best form. Latrell has been outstanding as well. And so across the board, really only Cleary hasn't been in career best form, but he's been injured, so it's kind of
Put a couple of Panthers in there.
Yeah.
Yo, Edwards.
But their career best is so good that even if they're at 8 or 9 out of 10, they're still pretty bloody good. And funnily enough, I think Isaiah Yeo at Clubland hasn't been in necessarily career best form, but his origin form has been. So when he was playing out of his skin at Clubland, I actually don't think it transferred very well to origin. And what I like about Isaiah Yeo, and he doesn't get enough appreciation, and he didn't get enough appreciation in game one, both him and Cleary, and look, I'm not taking anything away from Laurie Daly. Maybe Laurie Daly was the one that said this to him. But I've got a sneaking suspicion Bellyache sat down with Isaiah Yeo and Nathan Cleary and said, boys, in origin, what I've learnt is all of this ball playing that you do in Clubland where you've got time to work with the defence and work with the tempo and work with the pacing. You don't have that in origin. So you've essentially got to run first, then if there is a quick play the ball, then we put something on. Funnily enough, when you watch origin, very rarely, now it does happen sometimes, you look at the Blues with that try, it took a remarkable tip on from Trell to get that try. But if that was any other player not of his caliber, so it was a tier below, there's no way they get that tip on.
No.
And so usually the tries are from not necessarily set plays, they're from the fact that you've built all this pressure, you get a quick play the ball. And so what I think Bellyache has done, he sat down with Cleary, he sat down with Isaiah Yeo and said, just don't even think pass, just think run. And I'll tell you why it seems that way. First of all, I think Yeo only passed the ball 3 times in game one. He ended up running for 150 metres or whatever it was. I'll get the numbers soon. Nathan Cleary had 10 tackle breaks and he ran for 120 plus metres as a number 7. And I reckon that's Bellamy sitting down and doing a bit of video with them and saying, listen, you can't play the same as you play at Clubland. And that's what's scary for this Blues side, is that they've got essentially the greatest coach of all time sitting down with the informed players at the moment. So it's going to take a special performance from Queensland. It's going to take a backs against the wall, a famous win. But I can understand why the Blues are favourites. What do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, I agree on all those points. You know, the one thing that frightens me, and I think on all the evidence we have from footy this year and what happened in Game 1 and all those things you just mentioned about players and their form, the Blues should be winning tonight. The only thing is Origin history, that when everybody writes Queensland off, when the Maroons are down and out, this is when they seem to produce their best performance. And I think there's going to be a few players out there tonight that are going to be disappointed with what happened in Game 1, disappointed with what's happened with Billy Slater over the course of the week, and they might just find it within themselves with this new leader, with a new halfback taking them around the park, that things suddenly just click a little bit more than they did in Game 1. I think it's going to be a bigger test for the Blues than it was at Lang Park, which is a funny thing to say, given the venue, but I think they're going to be pushed closer tonight.
I look at this Blues side, and they're used to being the favourites. The difference is back in the day when we had this dominant period, we were mixed up with Melbourne Storm players, and Melbourne Storm were the dominant side at Clubland. The worry I have for the New South Wales side and for Queensland is like, mate, Nathan Cleary has gone into so many final series as the favourite, so many grand finals as a favourite, and I don't see this Blues side getting complacent. Like, I just don't.
Yeah.
And you know, when tit comes to tat and it gets to those big moments, who's going to have more confidence to take those moments? It's the players in form.
Yeah.
It's the players in form, and so that's the really big question is that, you know, where does Queensland draw the confidence from? Where do they draw the confidence from to say, when the moment arrives, I believe that I can make this moment happen? That's the question. Whereas New South Wales, they have the confidence from all the form that they've had from Game 1, from Game 3. And that's the question is that I think all throughout camp, I think the main focus will be, first of all, get errors out of Queensland games. Like, geez Louise. But also just building a sense of confidence and believing in the game plan. Because I really feel like last year's series, New South Wales was so dominant and physical, I think it did knock Queensland around a bit. Yeah. Like, I really think it made them go, geez, like, these guys are hard to go with. We tried everything in our power in Game 3 at Suncorp to rattle New South Wales and to go, you know what, we're going to be just more mentally tougher than them. And for 20 years, that's been the case, where Queensland have said, I bet you blink first. It was one of the first series where New South Wales said, nah, not this time. Because even you go back to 2021, you just blew us off the park. Yeah. Like, that wasn't that was a record win from New South Wales. And yeah, maybe 18-19, you could argue, was a little bit different with that match-winning win from Tedesco. But like, even with that, I'm pretty sure the Blues got out to a lead in that Game 3, and Queensland came back a little bit, and then Teddy had his moment. Whereas the difference here is like the Blues are the one in the position of power going, no, we're just going to grind all the way to the death, and we actually have a better side to do that than you do. And I think Queensland, that's taken them aback a little bit and gone, okay, we probably need to reassess things here a little bit. We're not playing the same New South Wales side that had all those demons and worried about Suncorp and was scared of the Queensland spirit. They're just not. They're just not. It's a different breed. It's a different breed in this New South Wales side currently.
And it's interesting. We've talked a lot about how the New South Wales forward pack was so impressive in Game 1, and you've talked about the physicality. An underrated part of that has been Brian To'o and Zach Lomax coming out of yard. Like, they ran for nearly 450 metres between them. 450 metres. Like, at the end of a game, if you look down and it's like, I think it usually ends up at around 1,500 metres run. Mate, 400 for two players. That's not even including Edwards. I'm just going to look at it quickly here in regards to... so at the end of the game, for Queensland, it was 1,400 metres run. Guess how much it was for the Blues? Over 2?
1,753. So in an Origin, they ran for 300 more metres. That's up and back the field 3 times, all the way to the dead ball line.
You just can't answer that, can you?
Post-contact metres was 120 more with the Blues. They had 4 line breaks to 1. This is the stat. 49 tackle breaks to 19 of Queensland.
Yeah.
And so, again, it's the concern I have is the physicality of this Blues side. Back in the day, Queensland could always match physicality.
Yeah.
I just don't know if we've got right now, players in form to handle the physicality of the Blues. It's going to take a miracle, an absolute miracle.
All right, on that note, what's your tip?
Look, I'm going to believe in the Queensland spirit and the Queensland miracle. They make something special happen over in Game 2. I think, if I'm being honest, I think there are probably going to be a couple of 50-50 calls that Queensland get. It's just the way it is in Game 2s. You go back to last year with the Blues, they got
that helping hand.
Amazing calls. I think it was like 6 penalties to start the game. But yeah, I'm going to go Queensland to just get the job done. What about you, Maestro?
I'm going Blues by 4.
Okay.
I think this is going to be tighter than Game 1. I think the weather's going to have an impact. I think Queensland are going to be right up for it, and that's going to help with that physicality that we've talked about.
Now, we got a text here just quickly. Unfortunately, Kempy, you're wrong. The Rabbitohs signed a contract that had no absolute requirement for the government to upgrade. The Rabbitohs should have insisted that the contract included clauses that allowed them to exit. They didn't. That's from Craig. Listen, I think that if both parties have acknowledged that it was agreed that upon signing the contract there would be upgrades, it's irrelevant. Like, I know that we like to believe that just because it wasn't written in the contract, if you don't upgrade, we are out. You don't. That's not necessarily how contracts work. If both parties have agreed that was the agreement of, if we sign this contract, you are agreeing at a certain point you will invest in this, a large upgrade, then you can be held for that. It doesn't necessarily, you can actually be held like verbal contracts. Verbal contracts. So I understand what you're saying, mate, in regards to, like, if you don't have a clause for it, therefore contracts are actually much more, there's much more that goes into them than just what is written on the paper. And it seems like both sides, both people agree that there was an agreement, whether it was verbal or written, that if we sign this contract, you will upgrade this stadium with, to
some extent.
That is substantial within this period. And I think actually got acknowledged, didn't it? Because didn't they sign they had to re-sign because of the COVID situation, because they didn't have the games there and all that kind of stuff. So I understand where you're coming from, Craig, but you don't necessarily need specific clauses saying if you don't do this, then we are gone. You actually don't need that in contracts. Verbal contracts do matter. I just think that the Rabbitohs are sitting there going, listen, you don't want to go to war with a bloody government. You never win in that battle, that's bloody for sure. I think that they're trying to push this as far as they can until they either get what they want or the government does what they said they were going to do. And I think they're within their rights absolutely to do it, because I guess what? You think the government's ever going to let you get away with everything? Hey, go tell your government just to wait on something. See what they do. They're there in a second. Same government. If I need something from the government, it takes me 30 days to even speak to someone. If they need $1 tax, they're at my house. Government, very quick at getting what they want, very slow at giving anything out. Anyway, mate, bloody establishment, mate. Bloody rob ya. Taxi theft. No, it's not, I'm joking. All right, we'll see you after the break. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Got some texts here. I've recently been to the stadium. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't need an upgrade. Craigie boy. Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. I will say, if you've been to that and then you go to Allianz, you might see how good a new stadium is. I mean, the upgrades. Okay, got another one as well. Hey, boys, just let Isaac Moses manage the Accor Stadium agreements for South. Listen, hey, you say what you want about Isaac Moses. When it comes to getting what he wants for his client, he clearly gets it done. Like, whether you agree with how he does it, he gets it done. You blokes are kidding. Verbal contracts with the government? Lol, too much time in footy, not in the real world. Oh, here we go. We got Mr. Businessman himself, eh? Is that Mark Boris on the line? You're signing deals, you know all about contracts now? Oh, my God. Settle down, brother. We're talking about the fact that both parties have acknowledged that was a part of the initial agreement. Mr. Businessman here. Too much footy. Bro, I haven't played footy in about 15 years. What are you talking about? Alrighty, let's get into it, shall we? West Tigers versus the Raiders. That is going to be a really, really important game for the Raiders, because, you know what's so weird? Sorry about the Tigers. It's a tough thing for the Tigers, like, with how much improvement that they have shown this year, they're actually still 13th, and they're actually only one win off the bottom of the table. And it's a really... I feel sorry for them, because there is not a single person that would watch them play right now and say that they aren't substantially better than what they were last year. But there's just been a couple of games where they've been so close, and, some disciplines hurt them. Definitely against the Cowboys, discipline hurt them. Luai, and then Dewey, was it, that went off, I think, for 10?
I think you're right. Yeah.
That hurt them as well. But so the problem for the Tigers is that, they desperately need a win, and they've just come up against the Raiders, who technically have had the most wins, or the equal most wins, 11 wins, the same as the Bulldogs. And I just don't know. The Raiders are getting into territory of like they're so confident in that forward pack. I just reckon they're going to go out and bully a lot of teams, especially when you compare those two forward packs on paper. I just don't know whether the Tigers have it in them to beat the Raiders at the moment.
I tend to agree. There's some nice ins with Fanua and Alex Twal this week, but yeah, the Raiders have set the standard in that aspect of the game this season, haven't they? It's so congested down in those teams, basically from 9th down to 17th at the moment, isn't
Mental.
it? Can be where you win a couple of games in a row, then suddenly you're back in the final, son. Doesn't matter who you are. But
Well, really, it's from 7th. Like from
Yeah,
7th
yeah.
down to 13th. And if you wanted to be generous, you could actually say 6th. So 6th, the Dolphins at 7 wins. And then all the way down to 15th is 5 wins. So between 6th and 15th, there's 2-win difference.
there you go. So, the West Tigers are part of that glut of teams, and I tend to agree. Like, Benji Marshall has got this team going in the right direction. They've got a better squad than they did last year. It's all, positive and into a lot more positivity out there than there has been over the last couple of years. Game out at Campbelltown, hey, who knows? Maybe they could cause an upset.
Last year, the Raiders actually played terribly, I think, at the
Yeah.
Tigers, and they were nowhere near as good as they are now. The problem is, I don't think this is the same Raiders side.
No.
They're so confident. Like this Raiders side is so confident that they can go down 20-0 or something, and they know they'll come back.
Yeah.
I mean, even 12, 16-0. I think they were down 12-0 against the Rabbitohs. They just came out and blasted them off the park.
Yeah.
And so, like, I just look at it, and even if the Tigers do get ahead, I actually want the Tigers to win because I just think it just frustrates me so much that right now they're only 1 win from the bottom of the table, and I would just hate for them to be in the bottom 4 when they've made so much progress this year. But the problem is like, listen, you can fanfare as much as you want. You can say they've gotten better, but at the end of the day, what matters? It's a win.
Yeah.
It's a win. And
100%.
and then that's the harsh thing about NRL is like, you can talk as much about how much they've improved and look how much better they look and the style of rugby league they play and the culture's better. But at the end of the day, you still need to win matches. And that's where the Tigers have probably let themselves down a little bit this year, where in these really tight matches where they fought so hard to get in them, they just haven't iced them when they needed to.
And now they've got a really tough little run
That's
the next month
what I'm
as well.
saying,
They're going
mate.
to Four
It's not
Pines
looking
next
good.
week. They're going to the Roosters the week after. They've got to go over to New Zealand before they return home. So,
Not looking good.
No, not looking good. Not looking good. Raiders to win.
And so I'm just, as I said, I'm disappointed. It's frustrating because they've come so far. But for me, the Raiders are, at the very least, they're one of the main stories of the year.
Yep.
What an incredible journey. And I don't care what anyone says. Even the most diehard Raiders fan, they would have said, listen, if we can make the 8 this year, I'd say that is a win. I would love someone to text me in a diehard Raiders fan. Give me your honest feelings. Like, where did you really think at the best where they could land? Because I reckon most diehard Raiders fans would have said, listen, it's a rebuild year. If we can just make the 8, that's a really good win. I don't think any Raiders fan expected what's happening right now.
Ricky knew something at the start of the season, didn't he? Because you remember that comment? Everyone's picking us to finish last. We finished last, so it's a really good comp.
Yep. And you know what? I'll be
he's not
honest.
wrong.
I will be totally honest. When he said that, I said, I'll be honest. I was like, Ricky, you're confident now, but I reckon this team, you got them up for the early of the season, but I reckon this team is going to fatigue. How wrong I was.
Yeah.
How wrong I was. Ricky Steele was absolutely correct. If they finish last, it'll be the greatest ever season that game's ever seen.
We're a fair way short of that at the moment.
Yeah, it's a bizarre season. So listen, I think Raiders get the job done. Hopefully, look, if the Tigers can go 2 from 4 the next 4 games, I think that's a win. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's get to the next game. We've got the Warriors v the Panthers. Now this is a danger game for the Warriors because the Panthers are essentially missing every single Origin player. Obviously, they have all their recruitments out of the game. And the Warriors have just been absolutely flying lately. Very, very similar to the Raiders where, a lot of people were like, I don't know how they go. Even us. I remember saying at the start of the year, because this is what I predicted was going to happen. The Warriors would start a bit slow. Everyone would go, Fisher Harris was a dud signing because he doesn't put up 200 metres a game. He doesn't score a try a game. He doesn't have 6 tackle breaks. And I was telling people, guys, a guy like Fisher Harris, he changes the trajectory of your club for the next decade, not the next year. Don't look at the first year. Look in 3 or 4 years what has changed at that club. Man, even I was wrong. So I'm running defense for the Warriors before a ball had even been kicked. And then all of a sudden, they have that poor start to the year, and ever since then, they have totally clicked into gear, and they have had key injuries to key positions, and they've just kept turning up for each other. They are truly, if Raiders are 1A story of the year, then not even 1A. If they're 1, I think also the Warriors are 1 as well. They're equally as impressive what they've managed to do when you consider the players they've lost as well. And so it's a really important game for the Warriors where they've got to be clinical. They can't go into this game thinking, oh, look, we should win 13 plus. They've got to be conservative, get through their sets, build their pressure. And Panthers might stay with them for 40 minutes or 50 minutes, but eventually they will break if they play conservative and complete at a high percentage. And so I reckon I can't wait for this game for the Warriors. Really important game. In regards to the Panthers, man, it's just all about not letting the jersey down, really. It's a tough night. What do you reckon, Maestro?
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about the Warriors and what a great story they are. There's a heap of leaders in that side. Like you talk about, Chance, Roger, James Fisher-Harris, but they're not through the spine of the team. So you sort of looked at the halves in pre-season and you're going, okay, how that makeup is going to look. And Metcalf and Harris-DeVita have been so terrific in their growth. This is a real test for these young Panthers, right? This is, can you go over there and get something in a really difficult environment? That might mean that some of them take that responsibility and really lift their games. But, yeah, just looking at those two teams on paper, it's going to be a very, very difficult trip, and I think the Warriors win just because of that.
And also, this is not the same Warriors as where one good game, one bad game.
The inconsistency's gone.
It's gone. They are clinical. They are so clinical at the moment. I've got a text here from a Raiders fan. Denon, I knew we weren't going to win the spoon, but if we made the 8, I would have been happy. And I think looking back when I was talking about it, I think I remember saying, mate, there's no way a Ricky Stewart side's winning the spoon. There's no way. So I definitely agree there. If we made the 8, I would have been happy. Here's another one. Mad Raiders fan here. And yes, I thought exactly what you said, Kempy. Rebuild year, happy to make the 8. Anything extra would be a bonus. Scary thing is, we'll be even better next year, up the milk. And I'm with you, boys. I know that, maybe opposing fans are sick of it, but I am such a fan of what is being built down in Canberra. And you know what is a really good lesson for? It's a really good lesson allowing a coach to have time to build culture. And I reckon if Ricky Stewart was at some other clubs in Sydney and he had some of the years that the Raiders have had where they've missed the 8 or whatever, I reckon he would have got the boot. Yep. Because they're so desperate just to get results now. Whereas the Raiders, true to the culture of their club, they've been loyal to Ricky and they've given him time to deeply ingrain the culture of that club, deeply ingrain it. And now all of a sudden, it's getting to the point where if you see a Raiders player put on a jersey, you know he's got ticker. It's almost like a guarantee he's got ticker because you can't be at that club if you don't have ticker. And it's almost, the Warriors have got a little bit longer to go to build that definite, badge of approval. But the Warriors are getting a little bit similar where you go, if he puts on a Warriors jersey, mate, he's gonna have a go. He's going to have a go. Got another texty. Hey, Campy, diehard Raiders fan. Was hoping 7 or 8. Can't believe the season we're having. I saw up the pointy end of the... I saw you up the pointy end of the aeroplane on the way to Vegas from Richard. Yeah. Listen, it was a business trip.
Baby.
Well, I'll tell you this much for sure. It wasn't me paying for it. That's bloody. Couldn't afford that. So friggin' expensive. It's a joke. Okay, thanks for asking, guys. I don't mean to alarm anyone, but the mighty Canberra Raiders have been single-handedly propping up the entire NRL for years. Obviously, the list is as follows: Ricky, Craig, Wayne, Mal, Laurie, Kevy.
They do have a massive glut of former players as coaches across the competition.
That's
you think
fair.
Even as wide as Madge, as Bellyache was at that Raiders team during the 80s and 90s. So
absolutely.
There you go.
All righty, we're going to head to a break. After the break, we're going to continue to preview the round. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Don't forget, join the Bloke Club for a chance to win a Mazda BT50. No strings attached. It's completely free to join at www.bloke.club. This month, we are giving away a Mazda BT50, all thanks to Aspley Mazda and Luke Camilleri. Give him a follow, LDC_01. He's the best in the business when it comes to car sales. I've actually got my 2 Mazdas off him, and I absolutely love them. He was so good to deal with. He still takes care of me today. So give him a message. If you need a car, give LDC_01 a message on Instagram. Mention Bloke, and he will take care of you. And don't forget to join the Bloke Club. Okay. the Dolphins v. the Knights. I mean, tell you what, talk about stories of the year. Now, granted, it's still Raiders, Warriors, the stories of the year for me. But when you talk about underrated stories of the year, it's the Dolphins just sneaking up on everyone. And all of a sudden, they're the best team in Queensland. And you're just sitting there going, could they make the 8? Yeah, I think they could make the 8. Matter of fact, they're playing well enough right now to make the top 4. That's how good they're playing. They've scored 130 points in 3 games. They've only had 3 tries that they've let in. They look absolutely phenomenal, and they've had so many injuries, and they've just turned up. It has been an amazing watch. Compared to the Knights, unfortunately, has not been great. I do feel sorry for him. It was a touch-and-go call, but I guess the argument could be, you had the game there to win. You had all that field position. You couldn't get it done. It shouldn't have been that close. They had so much field position to get the job done, and they didn't. And unfortunately, at the Knights, I think Adam O'Brien, time's ticking.
Yeah, we talked about Anthony Seibold a little bit earlier in the program, but Adam O'Brien's under that same pressure now. Although he's got a few more credits in the bank, right? 3 of 4 seasons since he's been coached, they've made finals. So he's got that.
He does, but it's like, oh man,
were they real? They were sneak-ins.
Yeah, like
were
they real contenders? Do you play rugby league just to make the 8?
Yeah.
Or do you play rugby league to continue to progress each year? And I guess that's the question the Knights have to ask themselves. Are they happy with... They've essentially... So they've gotten off the bottom of the table, and Adam O'Brien deserves massive credit for that. But are they happy with, okay, we've gotten off the bottom of the table, now we're a fringe 8 side? Because essentially that's what they've been for 3 years now, is a fringe 8 side. It's like...
So you stay there? I don't know. Are Newcastle fans happy with that? I don't think I would be.
Yeah.
Particularly, they still got some seriously talented players at that football club. And now Dom Young comes in. Bradman Best's coming back in this weekend after the hamstring injury. Fletcher Sharp back into the halves. Like, you look at that team on paper and you go, it's a bit Titans-y, right? You go, look at this team. They're going to attack everywhere. And when you watch them on grass, it's been completely the opposite at times this season. So very interested to see how they go here. But Dolphins going over to Perth, they're just in a better spot at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And just their ability, really to attack and defend. What's crazy is they've even got a guy like Trey Fuller sitting in reserve grade. Averillo's getting moved back to fullback, and Trey Fuller's an outstanding fullback. And so it's like the depth they have at the moment is outstanding.
And you're on with Matty, who's been singing this guy's praises all season. Isaiah Katoa named captain at 21.
So I think he's the second youngest captain ever or something like that. Something along those lines. It's quite... he becomes the second youngest captain in... You know what? I'll get it up here because it is actually quite incredible what they've managed to do. And what's so exciting for the... So here we go. Katoa now the second youngest captain in the NRL era after Nathan Kalis. There you go.
And it's not going to change much, is it? Because he's... we talk about rudderless sides at the moment in the halves. He is controlling everything they do.
Oh, mate, he is, seriously. We actually spoke about it in our podcast, and there's an argument to be made. At 21 years old, he's probably more complete than Cleary was. Now, I will say this, though. That doesn't mean that he's going to reach Cleary's peaks, though, because the improvement Cleary made from 21 to now has been nothing short of incredible. Like, I actually think Cleary has made more development from 21 to 25 than he did from 18 to 21. And obviously, he's had more years, I get it. But what I'm saying is I think Cleary disproportionately went to a new level after 21 years old. And his development years are actually like his big jump years. Because when he first came in, don't get me wrong, there were big raps on Cleary. But it was like, yep, we got a really good number 7 that, could be one of the better 7s in the competition. It wasn't until he was like 22 to 25 where we said, he could be one of the greatest ever. And granted, that comes with time. I get all that. But there were times where even Cleary struggled with form early on. Whereas at 21 years old, and yeah, you could argue Katoa struggled with form at times as an 18-year-old, but he was at a new club, with a team on paper that, wasn't a top 8 side. And so the fact that he's already this well-rounded, mate, if I'm the Dolphins, if there's one bloke that needs a decade-long contract, I would have offered that to him yesterday. Seriously, I'd be offering Katoa a decade-long contract.
Lock him in there.
100%.
The homegrown superstar rather than the one they couldn't sign at the beginning of their life.
I just think that a guy like Katoa, you look how good he is now, his body is in good nick. Obviously, you could put some caveats in there if you wanted to about injuries or whatever. But, why would you risk him going on the open market ever? Because right now, him on the open market, what do you reckon, 1.5 to 1.7?
Oh, yeah, he's well, that conversation's had about him all the time, first $2 million player.
He will be. Yeah. He really will be. So, and the good thing is right now he's keen as anything to stay. He loves Wolfie as a coach. And so that's why if I'm the Dolphins, whilst everything's red hot, whilst everyone's happy, that's when and it might sound a bit predatory or whatever, but you've got a 21-year-old with all the talent in the world that says he is so happy at the club. Mate, have the conversation now. Get it done.
Lock him down.
Because what happens if in 6 months' time or next year they go on a form dip and they start struggling? All of a sudden, that same conversation becomes, the future at this club's not looking so bright. We're coming 15th or 13th or whatever. Right now, the future looks bright. You've got the best centre in the competition, or at least one of the best. Obviously, Critter's the best, but, Herbie's not far off at all, like literally 1A, 1B. You've got, if Flegler is good to go next year, one of the best front rowers. Gilbert's good to go. Like, there's so much to like about the Dolphins. Wolfie seems like he's a great coach. So I like that. So I'm going to go Dolphins here. Knights, I just don't know where they get their points from, unfortunately.
Need to see something new.
Yeah, something new. Look, Dom Young might... Look, I will say... Dom Young, when they did go on their run, it was all based around Dom Young scoring tries. So maybe he is the spark they need to get some points. Maybe that's what's going to happen. But I guess we'll see. We will see. Look, we're going to head to a break. And then after the break, we're going to get into Rabbitohs v. the Storm. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Don't forget to join the Bloke Club, www.bloke.club. We're giving away a Mazda BT50, all thanks to Aspley Mazda and Luke Camilleri, LDC_01. Give him a follow, mention Bloke, and he will take care of you when it comes to cars. Okay, Rabbitohs v. the Storm. Latrell Mitchell named to back up. Got Mawali replacing Kalamatangi. Kepi joining the bench. Sullivan is out with a calf injury. Dodd comes in, the halfback, for his 4th game of the season. Storm news, Munster, Grant, Lioro, Coates, Uto Ikamanu, all named to back up from Origin. Bronson Garlick replaces Lasati in the only change from the side that beat the Cowboys 2 weeks ago. I think this is going to be a tough night for the Rabbitohs.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough night for the Rabbitohs. I know Charlie Mitt is back, but I just look at that halves combination. And look, I think, a lot of people have been high on the Storm, and I still have them as premiership threats. But I don't think that they've been playing to the standard of footy that Bellyache will be happy with. I think that they've been too caught up in winning games 44-20 rather than 20-6. And you even go and watch that Cowboys game. Like, granted, it was a good, solid win, all that stuff. But the Cowboys completed at 61%. And we saw how poor the Cowboys were the following week as well against... look what the Dolphins did to them.
Yeah.
So the Dolphins, they're willing to win 20-4. So they went out there, they dominated the first half, then they dominated the second half and just completely put them to the sword. And I really think that there's going to be a time where Bellyache says, mate, to this team, this is no longer acceptable scoring wins like this. We need to be willing to win 20-4 or 12-4 or whatever it is. And I think this might be the game. I think that Bellamy might be going, okay, we've had an Origin period and, we've had some outs or whatever. We need to start building towards premiership level Melbourne Storm style of play. Because right now, a lot of premierships are about, luck's I don't say luck in a negative word. Like, you've got to work your absolute backside off. But sometimes, here's a good example, like Penrith. Right now, you could argue, they won these 4 premierships, they were super dominant. But the year against there were a couple of years where they were against sides that just weren't really on their level. And so you could say 2 of them, you could say that the Panthers were just substantially better. Whereas there have been other years where you've got multiple sides all kind of on the same level. And what I mean by that is right now, Penrith are really weak. So Melbourne Storm, there's no clear dominant team right now, except for potentially Melbourne Storm. So when it comes to timing of winning premierships, there is no better time than this year for the Melbourne Storm. And I want to make myself extremely clear. I am not taking anything away from any premiership win. I'm just saying that certainly sometimes you can have these years that fall your way. And so the Storm, for example, it has fallen their way that Penrith are so far off the pace. Now, granted, they might go on a run or whatever, but me personally, even if they squeeze into the 8, I don't think that they're going to go on a run. I think that they just look so tired from everything they've achieved, which is literally unprecedented. And even the Bulldogs are a good, solid side, but I just don't know if they've got the same level to go to that the Storm do. And so this is where I look at the Storm and I go, there's going to be a game where they start their run, and this might be the game. Whether it's this week or next week, it's got to be within this month of footy where the Storm start building towards a premiership push, because I think they've been a bit scrappy this year. I really do. Even right now, I think they're actually sitting in 4th. they're actually sitting. Yeah, they're sitting
spot on.
They're sitting 4th, and they've got the same amount of wins as the Sharks. You know, like, and the Sharks, a lot of people say haven't had a good year. And that's where I look at it and I just go, that's probably not good enough for the Melbourne Storm right now. The fact that they've got the same amount of wins as the Sharks. And I know I'm being really harsh, but it's because this team can win the comp this year. So I'm not judging them by the same standard as everyone else. I'm judging them from the standard of they can win the comp this year. So I think that needs to start happening soon. We're going to head to a break. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Listen, I've ran out of time, so Broncos to win by 1 million tries. 1 million tries. I'll be reviewing Origin as soon as it finishes on the Bloke YouTube channel. As soon as it finishes, we'll be reading myself, Timmy, and Maddie. We'll be reviewing the game, so join us live. But now you've got the run home with the great sugar, with a bunch of grubs. No, all jokes aside, we got a great run home. There he is right there. He's cheering. He loves it. Sugar loves it. Fletch, Sugar, they'll be next, so make sure to stay tuned. And they actually have a big interview coming up as well, don't they?
There's Steve Kemper, the Sports Minister of New South Wales, talking about the Rabbitohs trying to get to Allianz.
There you go.
The government not having it.
So make sure to stay tuned. Broncos by 1 million.